Hey everyone, welcome back. If you like these videos, please like and subscribe. I need a kiln for a sword. We're going to have to make one because I'm too cheap to buy one. There are some great products out on the market, but I just don't have that kind of cash. So I'm going to actually make one, and it's a lot easier than a lot of people think. What we're going to do is make a square using fire bricks that I purchased from a pottery supply house. I'll also put a link in the description. The first thing we have to do is cut a little notch. You can do this a couple ways. I used a router table, and you can just see it makes an absolute mess. So do this outside. I need 18 bricks, so I'm going through and just very slowly datoing it across. You can use a saw for this, and I do this later in the video just to prove to you don't need things like a router table to do this. It just makes it a lot easier. So as I go through and make the ledges, we'll see that it starts to fit really nicely. I line up my final cut. I had to actually clamp the table because my fence didn't go back far enough, so I had to clamp the fence on. But when we see the final result, it's a really nice, perfect fit. So I get a really nice tight joint. Next up, I have to make the grooves for the element wire. You can buy bricks that have this already in there. They're just like 3 times the cost. So in the interest of saving money, what I'm doing here is actually making the end bricks where the element wire is going to loop back to the back of the kiln. Now I have to make sure that I do get a left and a right side, so I've actually marked it with my pencil. Just to make sure I don't make 2 right sides, because I do that stuff like that all the time. I'm drawing a center line and then just using a pair of dividers to actually draw the arc. So like tracing the curves, the next thing I'm going to have to do is use the router bit and actually just make a 1/4 inch groove that will actually take the shaft of the ball router bit we're going to use to actually cut the channel with. So I don't need to go very deep at all on this because I really only have to go that far into the brick. So all I really need is maybe a 1/4 inch deep into the bricks. Here I'm just setting the fence so that it lines up with the grooves that I've marked out on the bricks. And then I'm going to go through each brick and simply dado in a groove for that ball bit. This took a long time because there are 18 bricks, and what I'm going to do is cut the groove. I'm not going to move the fence, and then I'm going to change over to the ball bit after so that my fence stays in exactly the same spot and the shaft will follow in the groove I just cut. Then I'll change back and repeat. So here you can see the ball bit in the router. I use the vacuum because this ball bit made just a ton of dust. You can see how much it's trying to clear out. So I put the vacuum right up against the brick to try and suck away some of the dust, but still didn't get it all. But it makes a really nice channel for the heating elements. Here I'm freehanding in the 1/4 inch gap again. I'll change over to the ball bit and now cut in the ball shape or the groove that the heating element will wrap around in. And it makes a really nice channel. A lot of dust, lots of dust. And it fits perfect. And one more check to make sure I have a left and right hand side before I get too carried away. Next up, I just assembled all the bricks to actually get the overall dimensions. I know I had calculated it, but these bricks aren't exactly dimensions. They're out a little bit. So what I've got is 45.5 inches long by 11.5 wide, 11 and 5/8 high. I made a steel frame, and I'm just using a piece of roofing that I had just because I really want it to match the house. No, it's just extra pieces of metal. I'm going to put some K-wall in there. I'm going to take 2 more pieces of steel to just hold up the bricks. I had something happen here where I had a wasp actually fly into the welding arc. It makes actually kind of a little bit of a bang. I'm getting ready to put the K-wall in now, and here's where I made a mistake. I ordered 2-inch K-wall instead of 1 inch, so I actually ended up having to split it. A little bit of a messy process. Make sure you wear a mask, keep your lungs clear. But I'm just cutting it up and getting myself all set so that I can set the bricks on top of my steel frame now. Now that I've got the K-wall in, I'm going to line up all the bricks. And then I'm going to use this cement. I'll put a link in the description. And I tried a couple different methods using this trowel, a smaller trowel, and then eventually at the end you'll see I use a stick. It's probably the best method of spreading this stuff. I know the trowels are designed to this, but I had to work quick. And I'm trying to make sure I don't get anything in the little grooves or holes, trying to keep those pretty clear. I did go through, you can see a little bit squeezing out there. Once it started to set up, I went in with a screwdriver and cleaned it out later. You need to do this to make sure that your heating element will run cleanly through there and that it actually won't create any hot spots that'll burn out your elements. Next, we have to create the corner pieces. So I'm just marking them with the saw, using a piece of angle iron as a miter jig to keep my saw straight. This stuff cuts really easy. Lots of dust again, just make sure you keep it. And you end up with a kiln. Now we look at the heating elements. I'll put the link back in the description to the article I wrote on this, but you need to make sure that your resistance of your Kanthal wire doesn't overload your kiln. You have to size it out all correctly. There's some great articles on blade forums where they talk about all the kiln measurements you need. But here I'm just straightening out the wire to make a little pigtail for the end that's going to go through the end blocks. Best method I found was to take a piece of wood and tap it with a hammer and then just twist it, and I end up with a pigtail. At the end, I measure the resistance and I end up with about 15 ohms, 14.8. That's going to give me just under 30 amps required in order to heat this kiln. I do have a 50 amp circuit, so that works out good for me. You have to stretch out the wire, and so I'm just using a measuring tape, and you can see there it always wants to pull back, and then we finally just feed the wire through the channel that we mitered, and now I have a heating element. Now these are replaceable. Heating elements will wear out. If you need to true up something, I just used a board with an old belt sander belt, and now I'm going to make the end wall. This is where I'm saying you can do everything with a saw. You don't need the router table. I did all of these with the saw just because I didn't want to pull the router table out again. And I recessed my end plate just 1/2 inch so that I get a better seal when I put it on. I'm going to make it so that I can take the end plate off and the top of the kiln off. And here you'll see I used a stick to spread this stuff. Honestly, it was the best way to do it. Thanks for watching part 1. Part 2 will go over the electronics of this and building the final encasement. And like always, if you need a tool, make a tool.